Tristan, how are we starting episode 50? Hit me with it.
Well, I looked up, the only thing I could think of, I was trying to think of the number 50. So
Sure.
we blew 51 with Area 51 episode.
Yeah, we did that.
For like episode 45 because I'm an idiot.
It's perfect.
But I did think, hey, isn't there that thing where like they tell you what you should give for a gift for every anniversary? That's a thing. That's a thing that people do, right?
Okay, yeah. What's 50?
It's gold.
Gold. Well, that sounds some of them are like more interesting. 50 gold. That's so cliche.
100 should be antimatter. I don't think
that's
anyone's
good.
ever had their 100th wedding anniversary yet.
No one's made it there, but if we do, hey, science is getting better every day. Maybe we're the ones. Not that we're in a relationship. Wait, episode 100?
Yeah, that's like next year, theoretically.
That's true. So what'd you get me, gold-wise?
I got you water rock.
Water rock. And
Yep.
and it's made of gold?
The time that we spend together is golden.
Okay. So I got you the entire lost city of El Dorado.
Oh, dang.
Where'd
you find that?
It was in the back. But I
know you like eBay, so.
Yeah, it was on eBay. It was a pretty fair price. I had to negotiate a little bit.
It's that lost city category on eBay.
Can I tell you, it was the shipping that was the biggest thing. It was the shipping.
True.
That's where they get you.
You know how much a lost city weighs, especially gold ones?
But so I guess I'm just thinking that like maybe there's like a disparity between the gift that you got me and the gift that did I go overboard? I'm not saying you needed to go. I'm not saying you need to give me more. That's selfish. I'm saying did I go overboard with your
Yeah, I think
gift?
we decided that we were going to stick to a like small village budget.
Oh.
Nothing bigger than a small village.
Nothing bigger than a small village, and I did a city.
A golden city, nonetheless.
Of gold, covered in gold. Covered in gold? Made of gold? If it's made of gold, it's covered in gold. Yeah. I don't know. This one's on me. This one's my bad. Well, if anyone wants to buy, I'll throw it up on eBay again, I guess.
Does anyone want a golden city? Imagine that there are probably some people who could use that.
Yeah.
A lot of people who lost their money buying internet apes, I'm sure that they would want some gold.
Yeah. Did you know that the second... Have you seen any of the National Treasure movies? Have we discovered this?
I have not seen any of them, no.
Okay. Spoilers. If memory serves...
There's a bored ape in there?
No. That would be very good, though.
It's like, it's a USB key full of cryptocurrency.
I don't even know what that is yet. The second movie, I believe, if memory serves, is about El Dorado in America. And John Wilkes Booth found it or something like that. I can't remember.
John Wilkes Booth, the person who assassinated Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, they're like, it's like a big conspiracy. Like Abraham Lincoln knew where it was and then knew where the El Dorado was. And then John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln I don't remember if they like retconned history and made it so he was trying to like find the gold city or cover it up. Or if it was just unrelated to it. There was a whole Abraham Lincoln plot point with John Wilkes Booth. It was a whole thing. And if we ever cover El Dorado on this podcast, we'll definitely have to watch that movie.
We'll have to throw like it on the pile of, what's it called? Movie watch through podcast that I guess we're throwing up on Nebula or something.
Yeah. Why? Oh, hey, is that an announcement we can make right now?
I mean, we've been on Nebula for like a couple months now.
We've been on Nebula. Yes.
By the time this comes out, I can say that I'm on Nebula too, but
yay,
because it's August 30th
are.
now, so because we're recording from the past.
Wait, hold on. This is the thing. So we are recording this episode on August 18th. My birthday is on August 25th, which means
next Thursday I'm gonna have to bring a little cake.
I have 7 days left. Less than. I've got like 6 days left this is the last time I can say I'm almost 30. These are the last days.
That is true, and you have been bringing it up several times throughout the history of this podcast.
What's the 30 gift?
Ooh, that's a good question. 30th anniversary gift. Pearls.
Pearls.
You a fan of pearls?
I could rock some pearls. I could rock a pearl necklace to down a dark alleyway. I think pearls look really good against the cold, wet ground of Gotham City, is what I'm saying.
Maybe after seeing The Legend of Zorro in movies.
I think that's probably what I'll do for my birthday then.
Go see The Legend of Zorro.
Best wish, everyone wish me good luck as I celebrate my pearl anniversary of my life, and I head to this big, beautiful city of Gotham just to watch a cool little Zorro show. Cool. And nothing will go wrong.
Question about that, actually, because I'm lacking a Batman fact here. But
okay.
Does he ever find out who did it?
Who killed his parents?
Yeah. Does he ever is it something like it's the Riddler or something like that?
No.
So it's like just some guy, like not some like over the top.
Yeah, the guy who killed Batman's parents is just a guy named Joe Chill, just like a criminal.
I guess like in the story of Batman, it's like Batman comes on the scene, wipes out all of the organized crime, and that's when they're like, oh, and everyone's like, if we're gonna do crime, we have to do it like Batman, and that's why now I am going to become the Joker.
I will become the Joker. I will become the Riddler. I will become the Mr. Freeze. Everyone's you gotta match Batman.
Now, another thing that I probably should tell you about your upcoming birthday, but also about right now, this current situation. Because I know you think we're just hanging out, but I realized that we're actually recording a podcast.
Oh my God, we've been talking for so long.
Yes, this is a new record.
And this is a podcast now. I'm gonna edit a lot of stuff out to make this because we have been talking for a while.
Yes. So this is a podcast called
Hey everyone.
It's Probably Not Aliens. Hey friends, sit down and have a nice cup of cocoa. Enjoy the golden anniversary episode of It's Probably Not Aliens, podcast about UFOs and pseudo-archaeology.
Yeah. How do we do? Was this, here's what we're going to do, Tristan. Episode 100 of this podcast, our mission is to make the tightest, cleanest, snappiest intro we've ever made, right? It's going to get right into the juicy bits immediately. But we've got like 40, we got this episode and then like 49 more to go until then. So,
although I will say we're sort of like, we're getting worse as time goes on. If anything, the 100th episode is going to be all preamble.
Just intro.
And then then the last like 5 seconds I'll be like, oh, by the way, this thing's not aliens. Bye.
Episode 100 is oops all intro. That would be really funny. Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Nicewonder, currently 29 years old, and I know nothing. I'm the person on this podcast who shows up to learn about the really cool and interesting things that you also get to learn about ancient history, and people and places and things like that.
Ancient history. My name is Tristan Johnson, 33 years old, and I find out the things to make this podcast into true educational content, except for the multitudes of times that Twitter tells me I'm wrong. But aside from all the times that Twitter tells me I'm wrong, most of the time I'm right. If anything, for the internet's batting average, I'm doing decent.
Yeah,
so
honestly, I think so. Someone did suggest recently that we should do just a corrections episode. Yeah. I think that could be fun, especially because we don't have to
last episode.
Oh yeah. Well, someone tweeted about it as well, and I think that would be fun because we don't have to do any research really because people always just scream at us the corrections.
Yeah.
So, then if they're wrong, we don't have to check them. We'll just save it up for another corrections episode.
I'll just make a little Python script that just scrapes the search for @ProbsNotAliens on Twitter, and then we'll just read through it.
Yeah.
So this is a podcast called It's Probably Not Aliens, talk about UFOs, ancient astronaut theories, all that kind of stuff. And today we have, I think it's like a real classic story today. It's a thing that looks like a thing that looks like it might be an underwater city. It's everything that you could possibly want in a 2.5 second clip of ancient aliens turned into a 60-minute episode of a podcast you could never want.
Excellent. So what is this? What are we talking about?
All right. Well, first for the channel, first for the show, is we are going to Japan for today.
Yay!
We are going to be talking about something that goes by the moniker of the Yonaguni Monument, which people have seemed to think was the ruins of an advanced civilization that fell beneath the waves 10,000 years ago, i.e. during the Pleistocene, the Stone Age.
Okay. I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to be embarrassed, but so thank you for telling me.
Yeah. And some people think that it's actually the remnants of Mu, which is sort of like a Pacific version of Atlantis that was rumored to have vanished beneath the waves.
So many lost cities.
Yeah, it's true. Especially because what's a climate change? We're going to end up with a whole lot of new lost cities in the near future. I'm reading a book right now that's about climate change hitting New York and about in the 22nd century, it's like a Venice because all the streets are just flooded. And so they just drive around in boats and stuff. It's really fun. So today we're going to talk about Yonaguni and the Yonaguni Monument and whether or not this is the remnants of an ancient hyper civilization, or maybe we have alternative explanations. You'll just have to keep listening to find out. Got to get that retention up.
Yeah.
Just like YouTube.
See, you'd think that right now we'd put a stinger here, but that will come later, I think.
Yes. Like a bee. The stinger comes when you least expect it.
No, I'm interested. Tristan, I can't wait anymore. I can't wait. I'm listening now. I'm continuing to listen, and I want to hear what you have to say.
All right. Well, let's talk about Yonaguni. Let's talk about all this fun stuff. So the thing that you if you can imagine in your head a map of Japan, you actually probably are imagining the main Japanese islands, but actually it's a lot bigger than you think it is because Japan is essentially a 4,000 kilometer long archipelago that goes all the way from the Kamchatka Peninsula, which is sort of in Siberia, all the way down to basically the island of Taiwan, which is off the coast of China.
Wow.
So you can imagine it's huge. It's a big string of islands. Now, obviously the ones in Japan are the biggest and main ones, but there's a bunch of small ones. But one of them, the most southwest one, is called Yonaguni, and it belongs to a arc of archipelago islands, which are called the Ryukyu Islands. It's an island that belonged to Japan, but at one time it was the brief center of a globe-spanning empire that was led by a Scottish man named DDR Jake in the 15th century. This is a extremely specific reference to a very small fandom. So for the 2 people who got that joke, congratulations. You are as sad as I am.
I do not get the reference.
And if you are DDR Jake,
a little bit.
Keep playing video games good. Okay.
Keep dancing, I guess.
If you want the explanation, because explaining jokes is great. There is a video game for turbo nerds called Europa Universalis 4, which is essentially a big simulation of the 15th through 19th centuries through history where you can play as countries. And there's the hardest achievement in the game is to conquer the entire world playing as the Ryukyu Islands, which is extremely hard to do to the point where only I think maybe 1 or 2 people have done it. And the first person to have ever done it was a Twitch streamer by the name of DDR Jake.
Okay. Wow. Good on you, Jake.
That's my connection to the Ryukyu Islands. But yeah, it's also the most western point in Japan. Again, so Yonaguni is only about 100 kilometers from Taiwan, which I think is about 60 miles.
Okay.
I think 100 kilometers an hour is about 60 miles an hour. So I think that tracks. It's also really small. It only has about 1,700 people living on the island, and the whole thing is less than 30 square kilometers. But it is a big tourist destination for one very specific thing.
All right.
Sharks.
Hammerhead
sharks specifically.
Oh, all right.
It turns out that the waters around Yonaguni are just filled with hammerheads.
Riddled with them.
And because of that, divers come and visit Yonaguni all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
Just for fun. Yeah, just for funsies.
Well, they go diving with the sharks.
Well, good. I'm glad. I just want to make sure because I don't want there to be I don't want you to pull the rug out from under me and be and then they were killing the sharks or something like that.
No, they just go because
this is a happy thing.
Yeah, it's just a
People
little
like
place where you
sharks.
can dive, and you are likely to see some really cool looking fish.
Okay, cool. I like sharks. I'm glad people are just swimming with them. They seem lonely, sharks do. So I'm glad they got swimming buddies.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, that's important to know about Japan in general, but the Ryukyu Islands and Yonaguni, is that it's important for understanding this whole thing. So this is sort of a thing to just kind of put a little pin in your head, and we'll bring it back later, which is that Japan is known for being a site of extremely hard tectonic activity. Like the reason why there's an archipelago that goes all the way from Russia to Taiwan is because it's part of something called the Pacific Ring of Fire.
Ooh, I've heard of this. This is like, is there like lots of volcanoes or something?
Yes, a lot of volcanoes.
Cool.
Actually, I think Japan has something to the tune of 10% of the world's active volcanoes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Save some for the rest of us, Japan.
For real. And so the Pacific Ring of Fire, it's obviously a sign where a plate part where two tectonic plates sort of meet each other and grind uncomfortably, which also means that it's very tectonically active, which means that Japan gets hit with a lot of earthquakes, or a lot of earthquakes happen in the ocean, which cause tsunamis. So this is a part of the geological area of this place, which also means that the bedrock around Yonaguni is very fractured. There's a lot of broken rock and stuff like that. And you can see it in the fact that there's like layers of sandstone and shale and limestone that are all over the place. So you can see like big like cracks in them. Specifically during the Miocene, hundreds of meters of sandstone were deposited in the region of the island. And there's some local and regional uplifts creating a land connection with Taiwan, Asia, and the Ryukyu Islands. So there was a time where there was some connections going on.
Was it and then just like water or something?
Yeah, well then during the Pleistocene, there was a whole lot of earthquakes that caused a lot of the land connections to break and for a lot of things to sink into the water. So this is important to know as backdrop because according to the believers in Yonaguni being a ancient civilization, that anything that is underwater, like say the things in this this episode, this is when they would have gone underwater during the Pleistocene, which to let you know, 10,000 years ago was a time where things like saber-toothed cats and mammoths were still like a thing. So
very
long time
old.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just kind of keep those geological facts about the area in your head.
I'm marinating in it. Okay.
Yeah. So what this thing is there's actually like a formation of rock that begins just a little bit above the surface of the water that divers have been fascinated with since the 80s. It looks like it's got big blocky fractures that have angles that appear really like sharp, like rectangular, almost like steps. It's about 25 meters tall from the seafloor to the highest point. The central formation, which is like sort of a pyramid as ancient aliens called it, is about 120 meters wide and over twice that in length, and it's only about 100 meters offshore. So there was a time in the not too distant past, geologically speaking, where this was definitely above water.
Okay.
Where an earthquake definitely took it in, because you can see like all the fracturing and stuff like that.
Okay.
And because of all of the sharks, there's a lot of divers. And when you have a lot of divers, you're going to find a lot of cool stuff. And so in 1986, Yonaguni Tourism Board representative was out looking through the southernmost tip of the island, looking for a new place to promote for hammerhead diving, and came across this site, this cracked pile thing of stone. And he named the area Iseki Point, or Ruins Point, i.e. referencing that it looked like ruins. And went back to Yonaguni saying he had found what looked like a man-made castle underwater.
Okay. Now I know we're all thinking it. Was it possible it was built by the sharks? They do have hammers for heads.
That is true. That I was not considered. No, we have to consult with Arthur, the coolest of the Justice League, who can talk to the sharks.
Yeah. Well, this is rival Atlantis, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. So not on great terms with old Arthur Curry over here.
Have they ever done where like they should do that, where like Atlantis has to deal with Mu in the Pacific, and like the Atlantic and the Pacific go to war with each other? There you go.
Would be cool. I wonder if they have done that. If not, hey, free idea.
Yeah, DC, Detective Comics.
Yeah, take it. Take our ideas.
Trust me. What's it called? Aquaman needs the content.
I want more. I love Aquaman. I love a big wet hero, Tristan. I love a big wet hero.
So knowledge of this ruin got onto the desk of a professor by the name of Masaki Kimura, who is a professor of marine geology at the University of the Ryukyus in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he went over to look for himself. And essentially what he saw has, from what I can tell, dominated his entire professional life.
Okay.
After seeing what he was guaranteed, what he unmistakably thinks is a ancient ruin, he founded a group called the Marine Science and Cultural Heritage Research Association that is devoted to proving that Yonaguni is not a natural formation, as it would appear to be, but it's rather a man-made structure and has, and since he then, through subsequent dives, they have found castles, buildings, monuments, a stadium, some statues of people, and a connection of a bunch of roads and waterways connecting them all. He found like a whole little city down there.
Oh, wow.
So Dr. Kimura came to the hypothesis that this was all on dry land about 8 to 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. And that's when it was built by the ancient people who lived there. But then tectonic activity, i.e. like some earthquake, knocked the entire civilization and all the evidence that they existed into the water. And that the last remaining versions of it are these ruins at Yonaguni, and that sometimes they also say that it's Mu, or Japanese Atlantis.
And so, like, where are we talking? This is still like, this would propose that this civilization would be like super duper ancient, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically a time that we are like just figuring out, like, basically I think like the Neolithic times, I believe that's what it's called, when we are still in the Stone Age. We are still pre-metal at that point.
Gotcha.
So very long time ago. We are still cavemen essentially at that point. Like, if you ever seen Flintstones, basically living in the Flintstones, using long neck dinosaurs as cranes.
Of course.
Using the mammoth to wash your dishes.
Yeah, you slide down a nose.
Using a pelican as a toilet.
Yeah. It's all, I mean, we're getting back to sort of what I was saying. We're like, are we sure it wasn't the sharks that built this structure, the city? You know what I mean? Like, if Fred Flintstone's using the dinosaurs in his quarry, well, not his quarry, Mr. Slate's quarry, obviously. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, what are sharks if not wet dinosaurs? Is that accurate?
Sharks are way older than dinosaurs.
Well, yeah. I mean, dinosaurs never had the time to develop tools the way that sharks did on their heads.
And now they're too busy being chicken nuggets for us to do anything new.
Yum, yum.
And while we're on this tangent thing, I need to find an explanation for this, but I have seen clips or pictures from what I can only call grimdark Flintstones. And I got to know anything that you know about how that came into being.
So around the New 52 era, I believe, maybe a little after, they did a whole Hanna-Barbera reboot as well that included like grimdark Scooby-Doo, Scooby Apocalypse.
Oh, how's that?
Confession time? It's like one of the only Scooby pieces of media that I haven't engaged in, so I don't know how it is. Some people say they like it, so that's good. But no, and then I believe they did Jetsons as well, which is like I had a lot to say about like climate change and stuff. I don't know. They made everything say nice political issues. I think Flintstones had some like interesting political issues, topics that they tackled as well. So, because like that's like on the wave of like all the weird, fascinating, grimdark. Yeah. Like the fact that like one of the biggest TV shows on the CW is Grimdark Archie. Yeah, and I don't understand it, but people love it. Yeah, and people really love it. So people really love it, and I'm not gonna hate on them. It sounds like a blast. I only watched the first season, and people keep telling me about all the stuff that's happening. Like there's like multiple dimensions and time travel and like powers that like witch powers that happen because one of the characters is gay or something. Like I'm like, that sounds awesome. I just can't get into it right now. You know what? You know what would be the best twist for Grimdark Archie? You know who I haven't seen might be needing some work right now. John Bernthal. John Bernthal, most famous Punisher. For on the Netflix playing the Punisher. Archie, Punisher, recreate the comic crossover in real life. Play nice together, Disney and Warner Brothers. Never mind. The two companies that run all media now. Yeah. The literal Marvel and DC of movies. I started saying it and I was like, never mind. I forgot who did which one.
Yeah. Anyways.
Anyway.
Back to Masaki Kimura.
Yes.
So he's been basically for the last 20, 30 years been working on this site. Last I checked in with him, it was like the early 2000s. I have no idea what kind of status he's in right now. Maybe I should check in on him because it could be like, oh, he's dead. Oh, never mind.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, no, he's still alive. He's still he's still on it. Okay.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. Okay. So he's convinced that it is, I think he's revised that now it's a 5,000-year-old city. But according to him, that the largest structure looks like a complicated monolithic stepped pyramid that rises from a depth of 25 meters or 82 feet for you.
Thank you.
Some quotes from him are, I think it's very difficult to explain away their origin as being purely natural because the vast amount of evidence of man's influence on the structure. He says he's identified quarry marks, rudimentary characters etched into carved faces, and rocks that are sculpted in the likeness of animals. According to him, quote, the characters and animal monuments in the water, which I have been able to partially recover in my laboratory, suggest the culture comes from the Asian continent. And I actually read his paper on all of this. It's pretty wild. And then also he said that he thinks that he's found an underwater sphinx that resembles a Chinese or ancient Okinawan king.
Huh. Okay.
But that most of this civilization sank into the water during an earthquake, essentially. So since he's been doing this, he's identified 10 different structures off of Yonaguni and 5 off of the mainland of Okinawa, which is like sort of the biggest island that Yonaguni is close to, covering about a period of, or an area of about 300 meters by 150 meters, or for the Americans, 984 feet by 492 feet. And so, yeah, according to him, he's found a castle, an arch, temples, a stadium, connected by roads and water channels and partially shielded from what would look like large retaining walls. He believes that the ruins are at least 5,000 years old, although his first estimate was 10,000 years old. But based on these stalactites that have been found around some caves that sank with the city. And he also believes that that it's similar to ruins sitting on a nearby coast that have yielded charcoal that's about 1,600 years old. So it's an indication that ancient human did live on the island. So did a ancient civilization long, long ago exist on this little island in the Pacific Ocean?
I mean, it sounds like it, right?
Well,
I've not heard anything so far that tells me otherwise.
Well, we're going to have to find out after this.
Oh. Hey, Tristan, I'm going to ask you a question as we come back from the break.
Yeah.
If you could invent a new type of shark that had a different tool for its head, what would you want it to be?
I mean, the obvious meme answer is laser beams.
Okay, yes. But those are laser beams on their heads.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I want their heads. A hammerhead shark doesn't have hammer on its head. Its head is hammer.
Okay.
And like, we could design them to be like deadly, like the laser beams, or we could design them to be cool.
You know what? All right. I'm going to go with sharks that have a large Hadron Collider for a head.
Okay. Now that's interesting. That feels like they could help serve a purpose, a scientific purpose.
Hey, we'd probably get a lot more antimatter that way.
We would. And we wouldn't even have to wait until our 100th anniversary.
Yeah. Could get cheap enough. It could be your 50th anniversary gift. They give you the gift of unlimited energy.
I was thinking if there was a shark with like a Nintendo Switch, that could be fun for me, I think. Play a video game on a shark.
Thing is that it has to keep moving. Well, the Switch is mobile though.
Switch is mobile.
Yeah.
It's the perfect system.
Yeah, it would if it was like a PlayStation or something, it would kill the shark because you would just have to swim in circle around the outlet.
Right, exactly. Nintendo created this Nintendo Switch so that sharks could play video games without having to stop.
Yeah, shark do it, Nintendo don't.
All right, let's get back to the episode.
I'm going to go through all of the major claims that this is artificial structure, and I've got some pictures for you to enjoy.
Okay.
The big question is, what we're looking at, is it really a pyramid? Because it's been described as a monumental structure with a square or triangular base with sloping sides that meet at a point at the top, especially one built of stone as a royal tomb in ancient Egypt.
That does... Yeah.
So it does sound like a pyramid.
It does sound like a pyramid. It also does roughly, and I want to give them credit, but it does also roughly sound like a mountain.
Or just a pile of things.
Or like a pile of things.
Yeah, basically looking at it, it looks more like a heap in the shape of a pyramid, which does happen. There are natural pyramid structures that, because of like, different types of materials meeting each other, and because of like, gravity and stuff, you can have things that natural formations that do look like pyramids. There are things called Flatiron Mountains or ridges that definitely with different like things like faults and glaciers can look like pyramids. I just Googled natural pyramids and I found this one.
Yeah, this one does, and I'll right click save as for the Twitter.
Right click save as t-shirt. And this had the all the pictures that we downloaded.
Probs Not Aliens on Twitter if you want to see me tweet these out. Yeah, I mean, I've seen these on like the side of a road or something. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen this sort of stuff.
The problem is that none of these pyramids look anything like the Yonaguni formation because it looks more like a cake. Just scroll down and take a look. Just bask in the glory of this very man-made pyramid.
Oh, okay. And this is the whole thing?
That's the pyramid, yeah.
So that's what. This is a silly question. What part of it is a pyramid?
Good question.
Because it does not look like a pyramid to me. It looks like a rock, a big rock that has lots of different layers, but it doesn't look like a pyramid to me.
Yeah, it doesn't jump out. Pyramid isn't the first thing that jumps out to me now.
No. Okay, so it's not just me. It looks like a big surfboard that you put Legos on.
That works. But the thing though is if you do look at it, there is like, the claim that it could be still artificial in construction is that it looks like it has steps.
It does.
So there's a lot of discussion that it does have step-like features, but that's more like of a metaphor than like effect because it's for like saying like Monument Valley is stepped.
Sure.
But you wouldn't call them literal steps. And there are also rocks just above the shoreline in Yonaguni that have similar sort of breaking on them. Plus also you can't walk on them. Like steps made by people would notably be used for walking on. And these steps are sometimes like several feet tall. Yeah,
they don't look very uniform between it. It looks like it's very irregular, very uneven. It looks very, there's no real rhyme or reason for why these indentation, these, as you called them, step-like features may be where they are.
Yeah. Then there's the other claim that Kimura made that there's evidence of tool marks. But the evidence that he shows for this is lacking because he doesn't show any pictures of these tool marks. His paper just says that he saw scars from tools driven in as a wedge that have been found among other markings in the structure.
Okay.
He does say that it was done by a wedge-shaped cutting tool, which is called a kusabi, and that there are also funnel-shaped depressions, evenly spaced 20 to 30 centimeters apart. But the thing is, okay, so a couple things. One, photos, please, for the tool marks. Also, can something be evenly spaced and be 20 to 30 centimeters apart?
Because you shouldn't if it's evenly spaced, you're not going to give it a range.
Apparently, the only tool marks that he was able to show were some plaster casts that he didn't include. He just showed to some marine biologists so that they could rule out that it was sea urchins.
Okay.
So yeah. And also, it does seem that the precise spacing of those holes or even the location of all of these things are not published anywhere by Kimura.
Suspicious.
Yeah. And also how many were observed or any of that stuff is not. And there's also the big question about how you make a plaster mold of something underwater.
Okay, so I was going to ask about that, but I didn't want to feel, because I know they can do all sorts of stuff. They can like weld underwater. They can basket weave underwater. But I was like, how do you
dry out plaster underwater? Yeah.
How do you do that? But I was like, surely science has a way. But you're telling me also questionable.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, because as mentioned, Kimura is a geologist, not an archaeologist. So he's his ability to discern what is artificial from natural seems not the strongest. And then when it comes to like doing plaster, like I imagine there is aquatic archaeology technology, and I'm sure there is some way to get impressions of things.
There's gotta be.
But plaster might not be the one to do that. Plus, there's also just the claim that there's canals and walls and pools and a gate and a road. But in many ways, the thing is that we're able to we when we try to describe things, we tend to use a lot of analogies and metaphors, especially when we don't have photographs or detailed illustrations of such a thing. Like, for example, if you were to go to the Grand Canyon, I don't know if you've ever been.
I've not. Are you going to tell me that you've been?
When I was 14.
Oh my God.
But when you go to the Grand Canyon, you'll see things like the Arrowhead Terrace, the Bridge of Sighs, the Castle Butte, and Excalibur Tower.
Okay.
But these are not arrowheads, bridges, castles, or sword hilts. They just look like these things. You did live in Texas for a while.
I did.
And there in Rockwall, there's a place, a limestone outcropping that does show itself periodically as you show it across the lines, the landscape that resembles a rock wall. But it's not a wall. It's just, that's a word we use.
Yeah. You know what else Texas has is it's got a panhandle, but it's not a literal panhandle. It's the shape of one.
Exactly. So when you're describing a site and you say that it has the appearance of steps or the appearance of a street or a road or a gate, they're not really useful. You can't like, you need to have physical evidence that ties things to it. You can't just say this looks like a thing, therefore it is that thing.
Right.
And there's no evidence that exists there's no evidence that exists that we have any like actual stuff brought back from about any of this being actual things, except for, quote, the step-like features on the side of the pyramid.
Yeah, the very irregular, almost Asherian sort of nonsensical step-like features.
Yeah.
One would say.
Exactly. And as far as like the art and the tool marks, there's actually a couple of photographs of things that might be stone tools. Although they're one of them, according to one source I found, said it doesn't really look like it's obvious manufacturing, or it could be the fact that it was just a low resolution photograph, which is another big problem.
Yeah.
And there's also like, there's the tool that does look like an axe head could also be the result of a, low resolution photograph. And
that's true.
It could be that these things, if it is of artificial make, it could be because there were people who made like adzes and axes in Taiwan that were used as like kind of like farming implements that could have gotten drifted over there, or could have been dropped by people on ships or boats and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, things drift all over. We've talked before about, what was it, Oak Island?
Yeah.
That has coconut fibers.
Yeah, there's another story too, that there was a lot of people who believed for a long time that the Romans had gone to Brazil because a Roman trireme basically had drifted across the Atlantic Ocean and somehow wound up in the Amazon, which is a really cool coincidence, but not necessarily one that
just a coincidence. Yeah.
But yeah, that's some cool stuff. But the thing is that when we're talking about like the really, really old civilization, the oldest stone tools in Taiwan are chipped pebbles from a culture called the Chongbin, and that is from the Neolithic area, but from about 4,000 and 3,000 BCE, which is only about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago.
Goodness.
Which is a far cry from the 10 to 12,000 years ago. That was the original estimate.
Yeah, not as similar.
And also there's some claim that there is rock art. Said that there's like, zoomorphic or like, animal carvings that Kimura describes, but more likely one of any possessions lost from any of the people who were on the ocean on tiny vessels could have traveled or fished in the Neolithic times, could have left it. But here, look at so like, here's another example of like kind of what kind of standard we're going for. So next I'm looking at this, the next part we're going to look at is a statue. And I've got two pictures. One is sort of the low resolution photograph that was Kimura's original submission. And then the second is a more high definition photo of the exact same statue in 1999. Now, they say that this is a carving of a face.
I mean, I see it. I definitely see a head. How about, what was the terminology used for a step-like feature?
Yeah.
I see face-like features.
Yeah.
in this stone.
Now, if you remember a few episodes ago, we talked about
pareidolia.
Yeah.
Pareidolia, this idea that that the human mind is sort of geared to see faces in things that don't have faces necessarily.
Yeah. Dr. Kimura calls this Jacques' eyes, named after a guy named Jacques Mayol, who was like a free diver in the area. It is a rock with two depressions where eyes could be, but
it's true.
It's a pretty far cry from looking like a carved head.
Yes. And it might just be the angle, because the other photo that's like a higher res one looks to be taken from a slightly different angle, and it no longer looks like it's even like a head shape to me. It just sort of, this one definitely just looks like rock. Yeah. It looks like rock.
And this reminds me a lot of the face on Mars. That was like a big deal. Like when I was a little kid, everyone was talking about the face on Mars, but it was just because the last time that we had taken a picture of that part of Mars, we used really low resolution photography. And then when we took a high resolution one, you were like, oh, it looks nothing like a face.
Close enough.
So according to Dr. Kimura, the eyes are carved out, but everything else is natural. But and the thing though, and this is what happens a lot when you're looking up the Yonaguni monument, is that you'll Google pictures of it and you'll find a lot of pictures of people diving around like very, very obviously artificial statues and very, very obviously artificial pyramids. And all of them I could see were either a completely different place or the pyramid ones I found were like very obviously photoshopped.
Oh boy.
But according to the photos that do show up, basically they have no resemblance to this rock.
Oh,
and that,
but it's cool. The low res one looks cool. Yeah. It even looks like it has a scar across its face, like it's seen some stuff.
Yeah. It's a cool looking thing. It's just like very far from, like, I have seen natural formations that people have said look like faces that are way more face-like than this.
Oh, yeah. Mount Rushmore? Those look so much like faces.
Yeah. God damn it.
Took you a while to catch up to that one.
But yeah, like they're just two big depressions. There's no like distinct edges. There's no eye shapes. They're not even symmetrical. They're not even convex like eyes are. They're holes where eyes should be. And not everybody has eye sockets like mine, where I just have like beady little eyes inside giant pits with my massive French Canadian brow.
Brag about it.
So either this is natural or it's like done by some incompetent artist who's never seen eyes before. And
that's fair.
The other thing too is that they look a lot like eyes because of the light coming down from the sun, which make it look like kind of like eyes with a shadow.
Shadows, yeah.
But if this was above the water in open sunlight, it would look a lot less like eyes.
Yeah, you think so? But the sun still is upwards.
Yes, but I think the light refracts differently. Like the thing is, if it was above the water, light would be bouncing off of other things and coming in from all angles, and that happens less underwater.
Gotcha.
So the shadows are a little bit more pronounced. The other thing that you need to look at too is that there's a good look at the paleogeology of Yonaguni. So the thing is that this area, as I said earlier, there are multiple layers of mudstone and sandstone in the what's called the Lower Miocene Yaeyama group. So 20 million years ago, these like layers of stone were put down. And what that results in is this place that has a lot of rocks that have well-defined parallel bedding planes that can easily get separated if, say, like an earthquake happened. So imagine like sort of sheet cake where you have different like types of rock at different like levels, right? And then and they have very different densities. And then say like an earthquake breaks out, you can see that it would like crack and move, and you could see that would look sort of step-like.
All right.
Because the top would have like cracked at one point, and then the bottom would have
cracked
a little bit.
Yeah. All right. I'm seeing it. I'm getting it.
Yeah, because the thing is that the island actually has lots of rocks that look like this and that fracture this way. And this is also very common in looking at bedrock that has been affected by earthquakes. This is basically what happens to rock when earthquakes happen to them.
Well, I mean, but the thing about that is, I don't think we've established if Japan has earthquakes at all.
Yeah. What happened at Fukushima Daiichi?
Someone got mad and stomped on the ground too hard.
Godzilla. Isn't it? It's Godzilla in the Bryan Cranston movie, right?
I've not seen that
movie.
One.
Lied, and it was like, because it billed itself as like, it's Bryan Cranston. You liked Breaking Bad? Bryan Cranston is going to do a Godzilla. And then, spoiler alert, he like dies in the first act. And then you just get the most generic soldier guy as the main character, like literally like a guy who looks like the main character in like a Battlefield game or something.
Fair enough. Oh boy.
So even in more recent times, Dr. Kimura has been backtracked to saying that the basic structure of the monument is definitely natural, but that it's been terraformed by humans. They made some details like Jacques' eyes and the roads.
All right. See, now that's interesting. Now that's some thinking. That's some twisting and thinking that I could get behind.
Mm-hmm. A couple other things too. Were there even people in Yonaguni 8 to 10,000 years ago? And as far as I can tell, the answer is no.
Okay.
It's in the Ryukyu Islands. Okinawa is the largest one of those islands. The earliest archaeological evidence is called the late shell mound phase, which only began in the year 300 BCE, i.e. 2,300 years ago. The Ryukyu Islands are in deep water, about 500-meter deep water on all sides. So there's no, so like during the last ice age, there was no like land bridge to it, which means that if there were any people that got there, like if there was any people who got to Yonaguni when it was on dry land, at least they did not stay. And also they would have had to arrive by boat. And that is something that we would have found evidence of. And Taiwan being nearby, there is some evidence of people living there in the Pleistocene period, but all we see from them is evidence that they had some bone tools, some splintered bones that were cracked open for marrow. There's some like chip pebbles, some deer bones and stuff like that. Like and even those aren't even Pleistocene in age. So there's like maybe some evidence that some people lived in Taiwan like 7,000 years ago. I think that's the earliest time that we have for Taiwanese people living on the island. And that was the depending culture.
Depending on what?
Depending.
Okay.
But then, and also, this is also about the first time that people actually started using boats, canoes for fishing. So the earliest it could have been was 7,000 years ago, not 10,000 years ago, because that was the earliest time that there were humans verified in the area who had boats. So, and that would have, and for the record, 7,000 years ago would have been, would have been very close to the time that it was going underwater. Because as I mentioned, in the Pleistocene, there was some seismic activity where all the stuff that became the Yonaguni Monument were sent under the waves. So
makes sense.
And not only that, this is a 25 meter tall, 120 meter wide, 230 meter long construct. Can you imagine that if this was done by a civilization that had not even developed pottery, how long that would take and how many people it would take to make that?
Couple tough weekends.
Because like that's a lot of work. And like we've seen with like the pyramids, right? Like when we see the pyramids, we see like extensive like evidence that not only did they have lots of construction facilities, but they also had like an entire system to make sure like the amount of people that you would have needed to make something like that at that time would have required a lot of calories. And the people who lived in this region at the time basically ate fish. Like this is actually even before they cultivated rice in the region. So like a lot of these big monuments can really only happen after agriculture because you need something like rice or grain that is like a cheap, plentiful source of calories so that people can work on things that aren't just working to get more food.
But what about people on paleo diets?
Yeah, the reason why people who are on paleo diets are always exhausted is because they eat no carbohydrates, which means that they have no energy.
But so you couldn't... I'm always being told that when you're on paleo, you can do anything and you feel good and everything's good and you can tackle the world. And you're telling me that I can't? I gotta eat some rice?
I'm sure that there are people who are on the paleo diet or the ketogenic diet or whatever that don't eat a lot of carbs that feel perfectly fine. But it is, those are all, I'm trying to think how to explain this. Like carbohydrates enter your blood fast and give you a lot of energy for a short amount of time. The keto and like paleo diets are typically high in like more like proteins and fats, to the point where you got weird people who are like, you know, buttering their coffee and weird stuff like that. That stuff is like that stuff works. Your body needs to work a little bit more to get calories out of it, but like, and this is why, like, you know, athletes and stuff like that will quote unquote carbo load before they work out. So they can have the energy. Trust me, I had a friend who, in my master's degree, who was an Olympic rower, and she ate a lot of carbs. So like carbohydrates are a big part of like you can be happy on them, but if you want like that kind of like extended energy, and especially because not only like is that fine, but like the amount of like physical work you need to do to fish up, like say like, you know, your average person who has a physical job probably goes through like, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day if they're like, you know, very physical. Say if you were going to, if you say probably like 6,000 or 7,000 calories a day if you're doing something like building a pyramid, for example.
Right.
So the amount of work that someone would need to do to fish 7,000 calories of fish, or 7,000 calories or hunt 7,000 calories of meat per person, or anything like that, or forage 7,000 calories of wild wheat germ or whatever, or not wheat germ, wild grasses or whatever like that. That is a lot of time, while farming cereal grains is much cheaper, and you really don't see these like big constructions until you see like mass farming of these cheap sources of calories so that you can do that work without having to spend the whole day foraging for the food you need.
I getcha.
This is why the agricultural revolution was so significant for the development of these more sophisticated constructions, because before that, you basically had to work good chunk, most of your free time, most of your energy in the day was spent getting enough energy for the next day. And that's about it. That was pretty much, it's pretty much the long short end of what you did. It was not until agriculture that, you know, you could have people who farmed enough calories that you could have other people who don't farm. And that's when you start getting like civilizations that have specialization and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry, we got off track.
Yeah.
There.
Well, we're on track, just very very elaborated. But like also, so like if they were to build a pyramid like this, they would have had to have massive advances in agriculture that are thousands of years ahead of the time that we thought they were. If so, there would have been fields. There would have been people who died. So there would have been cemeteries. There would have probably been villages. And in a place that regularly gets typhoons and earthquakes, do you really think that everybody lived, their entire civilization put everything in the lowland region of the island, and that nobody put anything on the highlands where people today might excavate some evidence of it? Like, people back then probably lived in the place where if there was like a massive tsunami coming, they were more likely to survive.
Yeah. All right. That's reasonable.
And all of this is even assuming that they are descendants of the ancient Taiwanese people who came almost like very, very close. Like they would have had to go really, really fast to get from developing boats in Taiwan, getting to the island, and building a huge monument. That would have been like a very, very quick amount of time. But genetic studies of people who live on the Ryukyus show that they are more related to people from like Okinawa, and they moved southward from Japan. They did not migrate from Taiwan. So there's no real evidence that that the people who live there are descendants of Taiwanese people.
So a lot of stuff sort of fallen through here.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
And like, but as far as I can tell, basically every geologist who studied this site, with the exception of like, you know, Kimura and a few other people, are pretty satisfied that it's a natural formation. It's very dramatic. It has some interesting features. But
it's got a face sometimes.
Yeah, but there's nothing there that hasn't been seen in other places. Yeah, and Yonaguni is not even that unique in that sense. So there's a guy by the name of Robert Schock, who is a geologist at Boston University, who probably says the most amount of stuff about this. He's also said some stuff about the Sphinx and everything like that. But the quote from him is, "The structure is, as far as I could determine, composed entirely of solid living bedrock. No part of the monument is constructed of separate blocks of rock rock that had been placed to position. This is an important point, for carved and arranged rock blocks would definitely indicate a man-made origin of the structure, yet I could find no such evidence. So there's really nothing here except that there's some things that kind of look like steps, and that there is a guy who has dedicated his entire life to trying to make this case.
Well, I would hate to follow that geologist, or put in another way, I would hate to be Aftershock. Like a rock.
You got some
thing.
your pun game is on today.
Is it? Okay. I just throw stuff out there and we'll see what sticks.
Yeah. Puns. Today the shtick is puns. So why is this such a big deal? Why is Ancient Aliens talking about this? Why this like very obscure theory goes through? And that is because sort of another thing about media, which is that it's just like kind of like the public loves to make controversy where there really isn't any. Kimura's discovery got a whole bunch of attention. There were phrases like "scholars mystified," "underwater city," "Japanese Atlantis" that were like, very convincing headlines. So, the History Channel made an episode about it. A show called History's Mysteries came out and did an episode on it. And the BBC came out, Discovery Channel came out. But the thing is that it's because when you're trying to do media and when you're trying to make documentaries, you're trying to find conflict because you're trying to tell a story. And this actually comes to something that both of us do, because we are both educators.
Liars. Oh, yeah.
We are both educators and we try to talk about things in the real world. But as you know, as you and I both know, that making compelling content also involves trying to make a story. And stories need conflict. And sometimes in the drive to make a compelling story, you will take a side that is in the extreme minority that that is way against the overwhelming consensus of the field, but prop it up because that's the controversy. You get the controversy there. And I mean, there's nothing more iconic of that than climate change deniers and how they got a lot of media figures gave them equal time because they wanted to appear fair, even though they represented the vast, tiny minority of the scientific discipline. And that has poisoned our efforts to not have actual cities get submerged under the ocean in the next few centuries.
Yes. Very good point. And very good way to bring it all together in the end.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's a really cool natural rock formation. And, if you want to go and see some hammerhead sharks, it would definitely be a cool pit stop while you're diving around Yonaguni Island. But signs of ancient Japanese Atlantis? Probably not. It's probably not Atlantis.
It's probably not Atlantis. Well, Tristan, here we are at the end of another episode.
We've grown.
We've grown together as friends, as family, maybe. At the very least, I can say thank you, Tristan, for taking us on that deep dive into this topic. But if people want a slightly shallower dive, you can go follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Probs Not Aliens.
Probs Not Aliens. There you go.
But if you want to deep dive into something like all sorts of cool stuff about history and what it means for like the world today, I bet Tristan got you covered.
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel at stepbackhistory.com where I talk about that kind of stuff. Also on Nebula, Step Back on Nebula. But if I wanted to learn, I'm trying to think of like all my favorite Nerdsync videos. If I wanted to learn about what Thor: The Dark World has to say about abortion rights, where would I go to find such compelling content?
Boy, you can go check if that is a thing that you want. Then I agree with you because I made a video about it on my YouTube channel, Nerdsync, Nerdsync. Go check it out. It's a good video. I think it's good. I think people are sleeping on it. So if you like the video, share it around. I think it's pretty good. I make video essays about comics and superheroes and cartoons and things that I'm interested in. And the next video I'm working on is about me turning 30. So we'll
see if you can move aside, Bo Burnham.
Move aside, Bo Burnham. Move aside, Jonathan Larson. I'm the new artist in town.
We're going to do a video in your underwear with your phone.
I'm going to do all the hits, all the good stuff. What else? Oh, reviews.
Yes.
Hey, Tristan, did you know that people can write reviews?
Yeah, I actually stumbled upon a bunch of them recently, and I was like, oh, people actually like this show.
I know. It's so sweet. I need to start remembering to write out the names of people. I promise it's on my to-do list to do that. But you can make reviews. You can make a review and write a good thing about us and do that on Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you are getting your podcasts, if they have review features. But
if they have reviews, anything.
But if you really want a way to really help this show out the most, it's by telling your friends and family and psychotherapists
Lovers.
About it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because podcasts really are a word of mouth type thing. And so if you can, share this podcast with somebody who find it interesting. I'm sure that in the 50 episodes we made that there is something for everybody. So just share the love around, and that would be greatly appreciated. You can do that and keep listening to the show and know full in your heart that you helped make this you helped make us the successes that we are today, because we've been kind of 50 episodes in. I think both of us are surprised and also a little like surprised and touched by how over the top the positivity and the response to the show and the success it's had in such a short amount of time compared to other projects we've done.
Oh my gosh, it's been such a joy. It's been such a joy to see everybody who likes this podcast and share it around. And it just means the world to me because we have lots of fun doing it, and I feel like we're spreading a decent message, and also just like it's an educational thing.
Yeah.
How often do like educational things get like really a big fan base? I mean, I guess Ancient Aliens is like pseudo educational, but you know what I mean. We're the real ones.
Yeah. When I shout out the Endless Knot a while back, I got a message from the host of the Endless Knot who said that she got a DM from one of her fellow professor friends saying that they had gotten a shout out on a silly but very fun Ancient Aliens debunking show called It's Probably Not Aliens. And I was like,
that's amazing.
So like a sort of fishhook of things. Like someone I did not know at all found somebody I did know and talked about the shout out. And I'm like, oh man, that's a sign we're going places.
And that again, word of mouth. It helps people. Mm-hmm. It helps. Well, is that everything?
That is. So then, that is all for today.
We're going to do 50 more episodes. Here's to another 50. And then we're done. Forever. Yep. No, well...
There'll be a legendary 101st episode that will...
Ancient Aliens has been going on for hundreds of episodes.
We might be on episode 10 by episode 100.
All right. Well, we got a lot more to talk about in the future of this show, and we're glad you like it and you're listening. But until next time, my name is Scott.
My name is Tristan, and the truth is out there.
No, Tristan.
Because it's water.
He's in water. Do you need help?
Yeah.
Do you know how to swim?
I mean, I need help enough for that. That.